but I'm not going to presume that they're going to win, because we just presumed the Lakers are going to win. I hear all my friends, the talking heads who cover basketball, and all they want to do is hand it to Brooklyn and the Lakers, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. I mean, neither one of them got, to the finals, conference finals. So what are we talking about? People can still get injured. People get old. They can be injured again. So there's so much here, Tony. Do you like the move of the Lakers going out getting Russell Westbrook? Of course. Except now they have no money and they have no shooters because they dealt them all to your Wizards. Can they get shooters? Yes. Maybe, but they got to have them.
Bart, you don't get triple doubles if your hand isn't on the ball for 40 minutes. But then I pulled back for a second and I said this. No move is made without LeBron's approval. They had to go to LeBron. He's in effect the GM there now, like he's been the GM at every other team he's been in. And so I thought, well, why? Okay, LeBron's getting older. Maybe he wants Westbrook to alleviate the stress of having to play hard for 40 minutes a game. Well, and maybe this allows him to play hard when he needs to play hard. I just wanted to have one small word about the Wizards here. I'm not knocking any of the players they got, that came over, although I think they may stop the development of their most recent 3 number-1 draft picks. I just don't think, Mike, I watched that team. Right. Russell Westbrook was great for them. He was great for Bradley Beal. I don't think they're a better team without Russell Westbrook. I do not.
You know what, Tony? I think they're a good team, potentially, without Russell Westbrook, because I think some of the holes they had are filled. And it will allow, you mentioned Russell Westbrook was a ball-dominant player for the Wizards, too. And what this will do, Kyle Kuzma, I'll make a bet with you right now. Kyle Kuzma will go back to the 18 points a game he was averaging early in his Lakers career before LeBron got there. Kuzma will be a better player. I'm not saying he's going to replace Russell Westbrook. I'm not. But the players they got, and Avia's going to come back, and he's going to be better. Hachimura will have space to grow now, and he'll get to touch the ball, too. Tony, and Bradley Beal can get to dominate the ball a little bit more, and I'm okay with that.
Here's what Bradley Beal has been in his career. Bradley Beal's been a player who scores a lot of points on teams that lose. So we'll see. Let's take a break. Coming up, Cade
has more skill than any one of those 3 guys. Lakers had no shot. If everyone was healthy this year, it would have been Nets and Lakers. The Lakers would have been thrashed by these Nets. Now they got 3.
You're a great mind.
I don't know. He really keeps me on the outside.
That's normal. She's just, awkward.
As suspected, Cade Cunningham went first overall to the Pistons. Jalen Green went second to the Rockets. Evan Mobley went third to the Cavs. And that suit, we will show you the rest of the lottery picks in a bit. That's not the suit, but the Evan Mobley blue suit. There it is, that suit. I think that was my favorite of the night. We'll talk about that. Why don't we instead talk about something more important, though, which is Kirk. Who had the best draft in your eyes?
You know what? It was hard to pick from Rachel and Mike for the simple fact that I thought everyone did a pretty good job because that's how deep the draft was, right? But I got to give the edge to the Pistons. Troy Weaver did his thing. And I know he had the number 1 pick, but he was caught in between of getting Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham, and he made the right move. He made his next move the best move by getting the most complete player in the draft in Cade Cunningham. Then sliding into the draft, he ended up getting Livers from Michigan, which I thought was a steal, a guy that's ready to play right now that could come in off the bench and provide some energy, could provide depth at that point guard position or 2 guard position. And then he stole the college player of the year and Big Garza from Iowa, and I'm like, whoa, like he got him late second round, and I just don't get it. One thing we know about Big Garza, he can put the ball in the basket now. He's a 20 and 10 type guy. I know people want to talk about his defense, but he can stretch the floor, he can knock down shots. So I have to give it to the Pistons and my guy, Troy Weaver. Weave, I see you doing your thing.
Okay, good call, Cade Cunningham. I think every team in the top 3 was a winner, right? But I look at the Orlando Magic and what they did. Getting a guy like Jalen Suggs at number 5, that's a culture changer, okay? They now have an identity as a team. I know they have this glut of guards with Markelle Fultz and Cole Anthony and RJ Hampton, but he can play with any of those guys. And by the way, he's the best of all of them, okay? So you get a defensive-minded guy like that who reminds me a lot of Drew Holiday. And then also Franz Wagner. Don't sleep on Franz. They got him at number 8. I think he's going to be a starter in the NBA for a long time. So first-year head coach Jamal Mosley gets some guys who are ready to play. They're mature, they're tough, they're defensive-oriented, and I think the Magic are heading in the right direction.
So wait, is Mo Wagner Franz's brother now, or is Franz still Mo's brother until Franz does better, really makes his NBA mark?
Mo is Franz's brother. First top 10 pick?
Okay.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
Give some love to Franz, man. 19 years old. Right, don't sleep.
I'm so happy you asked Mike that question, because if you'd asked me, the show would have been over.
That would have just... We'll get to the pronunciations and all of that in a little bit. I mean, look, I think Orlando scored too. I think, I mean, it was partly because Jalen Suggs fell to them.
100%.
I admire Masai Ujiri for doing his own thing. I think Masai Ujiri has earned the credit of knowing when he has a North Star he wants to follow, it's for a good reason. You could kind of see the move that he might next make in free agency or trade with that pick. But I did love Orlando and Detroit. And as someone who covered the 2003 Pistons that won the title, I mean the 2004 Pistons that won the title, the 2005 Pistons that went to the finals, I am so excited to see that market get a good team again, because that building can be amazing. And that crowd and that fan base can be amazing if we just put the team in it that can win, and that'll be a lot of fun. All right, so let's go to the other side, though. Who had a disappointing draft in your eyes, Mike?
I would say surprising is maybe more the word with the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, okay, they move up to 10, right? And there are some good options sitting there. You have Moses Moody, you have James Bouknight.
Don't talk about Moses.
We won't talk about Moses Moody. Yeah, but they went with Zaire Williams, okay, who we had as a projected top 10 pick coming into the season. He's very, very talented, but this is a guy who's a few years away. I mean, he struggled to have an impact in the Pac-12 with Stanford, just wasn't very efficient, not very tough yet physically or defensively. So I just wonder, like, when is he going to be able to help them? Whereas they could have had some guys who come in right away and play and have an impact. And then you look at trading up to 30 as well. They drafted Santi Aldama, who, again, talented kid out of Loyola, Maryland. You know, he's had some success playing overseas with the Spanish junior national team. But to take him at 30, and he might be a roster guy who's on their team next year. Like, I look at Isaiah Livers, I look at Herb Jones. There were a lot of guys who could kind of fit their timeline. So it was more surprising based on how well they've drafted these past few years. I mean, you look at John Morant, Desmond Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark, like whether it's at the top or the 20s or the second round, they've had all these steals. So I was just a little surprised to see them take more of a long-term approach.
Well, you know what? I was more disappointed in Masai Ujiri and the Toronto Raptors. And I'm very high on Scotty Barnes, right? I thought he should have went lottery, which he did. But I just think you can't pass up on Jalen Suggs, and especially when you look around the league at the point guard position. When you look at Russell Westbrook, you look at Kyrie Irving, you look at all these guys, James Harden, even when he slides to the PG position, Drew Holiday. When you look at a guy like Jalen Suggs, this is a guy that, you know, could be an all-star for a very, very long time. And I think Orlando struck gold by him not getting picked by the Toronto Raptors. This guy is fearless. He's relentless. The sky's the limit. He has a very, very high IQ, and his leadership skills are off the charts. And then we already know that Toronto is probably going to lose Kyle Lowry, right? And we know that they have a history of playing that small ball lineup in the backcourt, and I thought Jalen Suggs would have fitted well with Fred VanVleet. So the biggest disappointment to me was the Toronto Raptors passing up on Suggs.
But then you kind of have to wait to see the whole play out, right? So we have to see where Kyle Lowry actually ends up. If Kyle Lowry maybe has a little, if Kyle Lowry has come to Masai Ujiri and says, I would like to stay in Toronto, we have no idea. That might have informed that decision. I don't know what the dominoes, it felt like this was the first of a multi-part move, just knowing the way Masai works. We will find out. I was also confused by some of the Memphis selections, only for me because they have a gift. They're not rebuilding. A lot of teams that draft future projects, they're rebuilding anyway. This is a gift that they've created, by the way. They earned it by having such young players who are stars, John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. You could draft an NBA-ready player right now who just folds right into those guys' timeline and have this power core of guys who are all around the same age. You'll have that now age-wise, but unless these guys develop differently than you, the experts project, which is what I go. I go on Mike Schmidt's recommendations when I'm evaluating talent.
Rachel, you know my
then
thing.
it's going to be a longer process.
You know my thing about Mike and his analysts for us when it comes to this area of the draft and prospects. He's been on point like Rondo.
There we go.
Just follow his lead.
Keeping me employed, Perk.
Speaking of guys who are on point, the wardrobe last night, I mentioned it a little bit before, the two Jalens in particular, Jalen Suggs, Jalen Green, showed out on the red carpet. They both went for the silver sparkly look.
Yeah.
So, who had the better suit last night?
Well, you know, first of all, I don't approve of either one. We're asking the question.
Okay, why?
I'm going with Jalen Green with the Michael Jackson look.
Yep.
And look, he had the bell bottoms at the bottom. He was rocking it. He had his hair everywhere. And the only reason I'm going with him is because you have to have a certain type of confidence and a certain type of swag to even think of getting that suit made first and then putting it on and rocking it in public where millions of people are going to be watching you. So shout out to Jalen Green. Look, the whole draft class was dripping so hard last night. I thought we was going to have to call extra custodians in. That's how hard the drip was last night.
Well, I'm going to switch my pick to Suggs then because I was thinking Jalen Green. But here's the thing. Jalen Green, that's no surprise. Like, that's been him forever. We've seen the hair. We've seen the photo shoots. For Suggs, I didn't know he had this at all. I didn't know he had that type of, drip? We call it drip? You know what that is?
Yeah.
That's a little bit of drip. And then the bow tie, I think that's a nice touch. So I'll give the nod to Suggs there.
I loved both of their looks. As I said at the top, I like the Evan Mobley, like Tiffany blue, you were calling it, right? Or Richard was calling it, suit. That looked really sharp. What was the pink satiny? Who had the pink
Kai Jones?
Suit? Yes.
Bubblegum?
I looked great. That was great.
Cotton candy?
I was really, really impressed. And I also, though, think that we had enough style going on here that it'll be fun in 10 years to look because styles, of course, change. So it's not boring. The guys didn't go with the boring stuff. They went with the sort of like more out there stuff. Although Cade Cunningham, as we discussed when he came on the jump set yesterday, he was all for the more classic black sort of, look because he wanted to, he wanted to make sure that in years to come, when we showed his draft, he looked in style no matter what year it is. So, all right, Mike, welcome back to the jump. There are a million things to love about the NBA, but one of them is that you wake up every single day knowing it's possible that by the time you go to bed, something completely shocking will have happened. Sometimes it's something merely bizarre, like, I don't know, a player throwing a bowl of soup at one of his coaches. But sometimes it is more consequential, like what happened before yesterday's draft. Shout out Swish, by the way. With the eyes of the entire league focused on Cade Cunningham and crew, the Lakers dive-bombed in with a jaw-dropper. Russell Westbrook is coming to town to join LeBron James and Anthony Davis. The deal sent Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and last night's number 22 pick to the Wizards, who immediately turned it around for a separate trade. And all of that is interesting, and we're going to unpack all the details in a minute. But also, let me repeat, Russell Westbrook is joining LeBron and AD on the Lakers, an alliance that the LA Times reports was forged 2 weeks ago in a secret meeting between the three superstars at LeBron's house. According to longtime Lakers beat writer Broderick Turner, Russ told LeBron and AD in that meeting he is okay playing off the ball to allow LeBron to initiate the offense, just as he did in Houston with James Harden.
Love the momentum, friend.
And in return, LeBron and AD volunteered to shift positions if that's what turned out to be best for the team. James moving to power forward, Davis playing more often at center. It's an interesting peek into how the Lakers plan to adjust now that they have acquired one of the most unusual talents in the game. A relentlessly competitive triple-double machine, a leader off and on the court who is motivated to play well at home, but who is also playing on his fourth team in 4 seasons, in part due to his shooting issues. That last part seems of particular concern for the Lakers, who finished this past season ranked 25th in the league in three-pointers made per game. In fact, LA's lack of shooting was such an issue that when earlier in the day yesterday, the Lakers seemed to instead be working on a deal to acquire Buddy Hield from Sacramento, that was hailed as a smart move. After all, only Steph Curry sank more three-pointers last season than Hield. The floor space he opens up is significant, or well, it would have been for LA. Instead, the Lakers chose to close the deal for Westbrook, which also prompted immediate questions about Bradley Beal's future in D.C. If Russ was jumping ship, was Beal next? Wizards GM Tommy Shepard has said absolutely not. And if you look closely at this trade, you certainly can see the threads with which Shepard intends to sew together a roster tailored around Beal. KCP is one of Brad's closer friends in the league. The trade also gave the Wizards more depth and the kind of cap flexibility that frankly seemed impossible just a year ago when Washington was facing 3 more years of John Wall's Supermax. Now, whether the plan works well enough to make Beal want to stay remains to be seen, as does whether the Russell Westbrook experiment works for the Lakers. All I know for sure is it was an absolute shocker, or as we call it in the NBA, just another day. Now, to discuss a little bit more on this, we want to bring in our senior writer host of The Low Post, Zach Lowe. Zach, how do you think that Russ fits with AD and LeBron?
So at the risk of making Mr. Measles, Moody, Mahdi mad at me up there, I don't love this for the Lakers. I would rather, so I'm looking at an alternative where I could have Dennis Schroeder re-signed, Buddy Hield, keep KCP, maybe keep my pick. I'm probably doing that instead of Russ because it helps my depth and the shooting problems are going to be real. But look, the fact is we can talk about shooting and spacing and who's going to take the last shot and all this. These guys are 3 great players, and talent and smarts and just all-out ferocity can sometimes make up for not so great spacing, and the West does not have an overwhelming favorite anymore that you look at and say, you know, that's the team that's unbeatable. You know, Kawhi's injured, Jamal Murray's injured. So it's right there for the taking. They can still do it, but I don't love the fit. I would rather like that other fit with more shooting because here's one of the great axioms of LeBron's career. If LeBron is the best shooter on the floor, you haven't done a good enough job building around LeBron. Now, they'll get shooters. They'll probably bring back some of their own free agents, but the shooting is going to reach a critical level, and in the half court, this team's going to have to prove that it can score. But like Perk is going to say, Russ is a great player. They're going to figure a lot of it out. And to me, the question is not just the spacing, because the Lakers have played in bad spacing before. It's the volume of shots Russ takes and the volume of bad long twos he takes. Is he really going to commit to playing off the ball? Is he really going to set screens and cut and all that and not just stand around the three-point arc? Because we've heard that song before and we haven't seen it play out in real time. The Lakers are going to be great either way because LeBron and AD are great. I just like that first iteration with Hield, Schroeder, KCP, etc. a little bit better than this one.
Well, can we take a moment right now and recognize Zach Lowe with the new haircut, the new look? I see you, Zach Lowe, with the little Boosie fade.
Thing RJ said to him also.
He got the little Boosie fade on himself, looking real fresh right now. I just want to acknowledge you to that point first, Zach. But look, listen, let me say this to you, okay? First of all, you might as well change the name, right? They're the Los Angeles Jeffersons, okay, because they're moving on up. Look, adding Russell Westbrook was huge, and that makes them the favorite to come out of the Western Conference. And in my eyes, that makes them the favorite to win the title. We keep talking about Russell Westbrook and his shot-making or shot-taking thing that we just keep painting this narrative about him. But he's led the league in assists 3 times throughout his career. He led the league in assists last year when he was playing with a whole bunch of G League guys. One thing that we do notice that Russell Westbrook hasn't played with a big like Anthony Davis. And if Anthony Davis can commit to playing the center position, and him and Russell Westbrook is in a pick and roll, you better watch the hell out because you don't know how to stop it. Secondly, right, who did they just hire? One of our good friends, Fizdale. What did Fizdale coach LeBron at? With the Miami Heat. And who was with the Miami Heat? D. Wade and LeBron James. Are they both shooters? No. Actually, D. Wade shot like 33% from the three-point line. But they found ways to figure it out by cutting, by going to the mid-post area, by going on the low block, deep seals, things to that nature. You can surround them with shooting. Guys like J.J. Redick is going to be up in free agency. I'm pretty sure he'll take a call from LeBron James saying, hey, J.J., we need you. Sure, Bron, I'm on my way. I'm trying to win my championship. Don't you think, Zach Lowe? And you try to find a way to get rid of Dennis Schroeder, bring back some assets, right? Sign and trade. I don't know what the market value is. That's not my department. But I will say this, Russell Westbrook, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, watch the hell out.
Zach, what do you think? I think Perk just suggested we get Mike Miller out of retirement, but I'm not sure. What do you think about the Lakers' ability to add some shooting?
Well, first of all, they better bring back all their outgoing free agents like Alex Caruso and Taylor Horton-Tucker, both of whom are going to have a lot of competition for their services. Yeah, Perk is right. They'll get some shooters to come in the minimum, but who? some of these wings like Reggie Bullock, Alec Burks, they're going to be out of the Lakers price range. The Lakers have no money to offer. Minimums and the tax mid-level, that's it. It might be a guy like JJ who's at the end of his career and wants a ring. But look, JJ Redick's coming off a pretty uneven season. He's got to prove that he can compete defensively at the highest level if he's going to be on the floor during the finals. The Lakers are going to be fine. All I'm saying is if I'm presented with those two scenarios, I'm taking the one with Buddy and Dennis just by a little bit over this one. But they're going to be exciting to watch, that's for sure.
And clearly, LeBron and AD want to play with Russ. I mean, that's certainly what the reporting is, so that's got to be a factor as well. I will say the same thing for the Lakers that we said about the Raptors earlier in the show. I don't think they're done yet, so let's see how things pan out over the next week. Free agency on Monday. Number 3 backs it over a Hoosier in 2007.
Oh!
Grammarly helps make your writing clear and concise, no matter where you are. Compose a cover letter that stands out thanks to flawless writing and compelling word choice. Inspire your team with a presentation free of errors in spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Impress your boss with a proposal that gets straight to the point. And be sure your writing comes across the way you intend. Download Grammarly today to review your writing before you hit send.
Good morning, class. Do you know how fast brain connection can be with a finger mining?
Is it fast, like me?
Nope.
Shinkansen is 3 times faster. Is it that fast?
Nuh-uh.
So, how fast is it?
The finger mining helps brain connections by 10 times faster.
Wow, you're very smart, teacher.
S26 Go Progress.
Ooh,
A little
don't
extra,
shove him
too.
now.
A little extra. Russ makes people feel extra. That is true on the court, right?
Yeah, you do.
He knows how to get under your skin. It's a skill. Number 2, he attacks the rack against the Ducks in 2008. Let's see this one coming up. A little poster in poly. This is right. People made posters at this point. Can we bring back the poster? Oh, look at that.
I've seen that fist pump a few times in the NBA.
Yeah.
Keep telling people he like a 6'4" version of Kevin Garnett after he comes with his emotions. Ooh.
Oh,
Look
no.
at that against the Cal Bears. That is just all Russ right there.
Everything looks better in powder blue.
That's what you call snatching the screws out the basket.
Am I getting this right? Everyone's backstory sometimes. Didn't Russ only get the spot at UCLA because someone dropped out? Am I remembering that correctly? Scholarship-wise?
Yeah.
There you go. And look what the man has
And
done.
he came off the bench.
There you go. Let's get to the Portland Trailblazers. Rumors have been swirling over the last few days about Dame Lillard to the point that he and CJ McCollum started shooting down the rumors on Twitter. And then yesterday at USA Basketball Media Availability, Dame was asked this question. I want to get the question right because it refers to his answer. He said the question was, quote, would you give back money?
About the situation as I could possibly be. And, you know, things have just continued to come out. Oh, Dame said, you know, he's 75-25 or something. And Dame is excited about this. Dame is going to, you know, give back money. Like, I've seen everything, and I have not said any of these things. So
Can I ask if you would do that?
If I would do what?
Actually give back money off of your current contract?
Why would I do that?
I don't know, but it was suggested, so I'm just asking.
No.
So you can't give back money off of your contract, but you could sit out, and then you don't get paid when you sit out. So I believe that was the origin there. It came from a True Hoop story, and that Dame actually pushed back specifically on that story on Twitter. This is a lot of round-the-circle ways of saying, Perk, what do you think is going on here with Dame and CJ taking all of these reports head-on and addressing them? Do you think that that's a good idea for them, or do you think they should just kind of let the noise stay out there?
Well, one thing about it is that Dame been doing this since he came in the league. He's been very outspoken. He's a guy that's not afraid to go back and forth with people on Twitter, on social media. This is who Dame Dollar is. Now, my advice to Damian Lillard is now it's about time for those rumors to start to be true. He needs to speak out because after watching Russell Westbrook get traded to the Lakers, this should be an eye-opener for Dame to say, hey, what's next for me? Again, he's 31 years of age. And I just don't see the Portland Trail Blazers getting any better. No disrespect to C.J. McCollum. And I understand that Damian Lillard, he is a guy that said he don't want to run from the grind. And he's not running, okay? Right now I'm telling him to sprint, take off as fast as he can, and go find another destination and go find somewhere where you know you could actually contend for a title and be a title favorite, a contender. So, you know, my advice to Dame is it's about that time.
Look, as much as any star in sports, Damian Lillard deserves the benefit of the doubt. If he wants to address these reports publicly and address them specifically, by the way, he should do that. He can do whatever he wants. And it was shocking for me to read, and he never struck me as the kind of player who would sit out games and take fines. Dame is a pro. He's a team player, and I think the Blazers are frankly counting on that. That's what they're banking on for Dame. Dame's going to be a pro through all of this. He's not going to take his value and all that stuff. So, look, Dame can handle this however he wants. He's earned the benefit of the doubt. And the bottom line is, we can read every tea leaf and every tweet and every Instagram post and every anonymous source and all this. He's either going to get traded or he won't. He's either going to ask for a trade or he won't. We'll eventually find out. Let's just see it play out.
The tough thing that's hard, though, about, quote, asking for a trade in Damian Lillard's situation is that Supermax just kicks in this year, Zach, right, I believe? So he doesn't really control where he goes. We've seen some players who have been able to say, I want to go here. And because of the value left on their contract, other teams don't want to trade for him if that guy does not want to stay with their team. They don't want to give up all those assets if the guy's just going to leave in a year. Damian Lillard has a lot of years left on his contract. I assume, Zach, that then if he did go to the Blazers with a trade request, they could deal him anywhere, including to a team that feels like they could never get a big star and is in a smaller market that right now doesn't have a lot of championship aspirations. Is that true?
They could, and certainly that's been speculated that Portland has a lot of power here and a lot of leverage here, more so than when a player's in the last year or the second to last year of his deal. But there's also the optics, right? Remember how Oklahoma City was so accommodating? Hey, Chris Paul, where do you want to go? This is Damian Lillard. Teams are rarely in the business of dealing franchise players who have done so much for the team, so much for the community, to Siberia where they don't want to go, to a losing team where they don't want to go. So yes, in theory, the Blazers have a lot of power, and I think they do have a lot of power. They do have the luxury of time. But I don't think when push comes to shove, they're just going to deal Damian Lillard wherever. I think it would require a conversation. Hey, this team X that's not very good, that's maybe in a city you don't want to be in, they're offering us way more than anybody else. What do you think? I just don't think they're just going to say, Dame, we have the power, you're going there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not presenting it as if they would just sort of angrily ship him off. And I would not call any NBA market Siberia, Zach Lowe. But I do think that it is a riskier proposition to ask for a trade if you are a player with a lot of years on your contract. Because at some point, while I know that teams do often want to do the right thing by the players that have meant so much to their franchise, there's still the reality that that general manager would like to keep his job. And that if he makes a deal where he ships off Dame and doesn't get much in return, or doesn't get as much in return as it then becomes known around the NBA, because everything becomes known around the NBA,